Homeschool curriculums are getting way too good at keeping lessons interesting these days. We do not stand a chance of keeping the myth alive that homeschoolers are uneducated. So let me tell you how to keep things boring. That way your kids will not get the idea that education is fun or anything crazy like that. Now let's start with science, seeing as that's a pretty hard subject. Kids get nice and bored when trying to memorize things like chemical properties or plant processes. So don't do any fun activities with them to show what these processes look like in real life. That's way too exciting. I mean, don't be like those crazy parents who show their kids what it's like by building a real volcano inside their living room. You know, when you fill the plastic bottle with vinegar and water, and then you pour a bit of a slurp of bicarb soda in, and can you imagine? Your kids would want to learn more about science. We can't have that. So one really good curriculum to avoid is Apologia. I'll link it down below so you know what not to get to make science boring. If you do this one, your kids will be doing things like launching rockets. They'll be doing things like making clouds, identifying animal tracks, playing a predator with coloured candies that hide in camouflage. They won't stand a chance at being bored. Another good one to avoid is Waldock Way. They will be researching questions like, where do boogers come from? And it has kids doing science experiments with M&Ms. What kid can resist that? And then there's filmmaking. Don't even let your kids know that there's such a thing. Even just making short videos is super fascinating. And speaking of videos, would you mind hitting the like button and the subscribe button? That way you can get my other very boring videos in the future. So if your kids ever mention about making videos, do not tell them about Schoolhouse Teachers, which has a video making course. It teaches them everything about making movies, casting, color theory, audio recording. Way too interesting. They might even keep learning about it after the course is finished. And really quick, if you are starting out with homeschooling, make sure you check out my homeschool parenting program. It will get you through all of the rough spots and you'll be homeschooling like a pro in no time. I'll put a link down in the description box below. And be careful never to combine art with academics. Like suggesting they illustrate one of their favorite songs or poems with a drawing. Getting their imagination going like that could have lifelong consequences. They could end up liking Shakespeare or studying art history for fun. And never use a curriculum like Phonics Museum by Veritas Press. Kids get to follow Percival through a museum as they learn their letters and also look at a bit of fine art along the way. This one is scary because it makes children want to start reading on their own. Way too dangerous. They might start liking school after all. And stay away from My Father's World. Imagine having families investigate history together instead of making children sit alone and memorize random dates and names. And it gets worse. Children learn about animals using cookie cutters. And third graders get to create a time machine and travel back into history and meet 32 famous world-changing people. It's so much fun, they might remember the names and dates without even trying. And then there's computer science, you know, learning languages like Java, Python, HTML. I thought this one was safely boring until I heard about Coder Kids. Way too fun. Now, let's talk about something nice and simple, like baking. Some people think this is a great way to teach math because it teaches adding, multiplying, dividing, all of those things. There's an incentive. The yummy treats at the end. Baking will have your kids thinking math is cool and fun, and they won't hate it like most public school students do. And stay away from BJU Press Math. These guys have loads of fun manipulatives and hands-on games and animations to keep kids interested. You cannot keep a child uninspired with a curriculum like that. And another thing to avoid if you want a fun homeschool, something that's really interest-based, is art. Did you know painting, drawing, and sculpting all require an understanding of symmetry and geometry? Not to mention, it gets kids' imaginations going and really inspires their creativity. So don't let them realize there's actually a really cool reason for learning all these things, otherwise boredom goes out the window. And that brings me to another scary subject, and that is writing. If your child is staring at a blank screen or page totally clueless about how to start, don't ruin it by suggesting they could write a letter to the president. Or maybe to a soldier overseas. And definitely do not use story starters. Writing stories would get their imagination going and their creativity flowing. Your kids might start having fun writing and maybe get really good at it too. Do you know of any fun homeschool activities to avoid? Comment down below and tell me. Another one you should definitely stay away from too is all about learning press. They have things like fun online video lessons, card games, flashcards. They've got workbooks that build vocabulary. There's even a cool little puppet they use as well. And they learn reading in a fun way, and it's only like 20 minutes a day, so it's not boring enough because they're not taking enough time. Way too fun and way too easy. The myth that homeschooling is boring will be completely destroyed if you use any of these programs. But if you want a curriculum that is pretty easy to use and doesn't take lots of time but is also fun, check out these open and go homeschool curriculum options here.